Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a warm afternoon here, so I have my summer dew and my sleeveless top. Anyway, I thought we would talk about why people don't get help for their anxiety. Now, uh, that's kind of in two categories. One is their responsibility, and the other is what's really going out there in the world. So, I mean, as far as treatments for anxiety. So, I was talking to Josh yesterday, and I said, "So, why do you think people don't get help for their anxiety?" You know, there's people that do, of course. We work with them, and Josh works with them. And there's people that just jump in and they decide this is what they're going to do. But there's a large group of people that just don't get help for their anxiety, and they sit, and you may be one of them, and I really don't blame you for this. Sit and talk about your symptoms and worry and fret, and it's almost like you're paralyzed to do something. And interestingly, I guess this subject came up to me the other day because I got a note from somebody that was shaming me for having a charge for the Break Free program. And by the way, the Break Free program is very expensive for me to produce. I have 100% money back guarantee, so I suck up anything that comes back, but that's very rare. And my husband was so good that he let me spend hundreds of thousands of dollars promoting and trying to get the word out, and I didn't know what I was doing, so I wasted a lot of money, gave a lot of programs away, helped people as best I could. It was interesting, the people that I gave the program away to were the ones that usually didn't do very well. The ones that paid for it did much better. But anyway, she was saying, you should be giving this away. This is, if you have something, people should know. And it made me feel bad because I spend a whole lot of time helping people for free. And believe me, I will probably never make up for all that I've put into this. And you guys all know that what I'm trying to do is set it up so that somebody else will be able to do this, and they, of course, have to make a living even if I don't. Okay, so back to talking with Josh about why people don't get help. I have a feeling that person will never get help. It's just an attitude. If it's not free, I'm not doing it. And she falls into that category, and I'm really sorry. It takes work to get well, and I believe me, I understand it. Okay, so Josh said, well, some of the main reasons that people don't get the help they need is that they just really don't think there is significant help or that there's a cure out there. Now, for those of us with genetic anxiety, you know that I don't believe there's a cure. But since it's a very good genetic variation, I don't think that you want a cure. What you want is to be able to control the anxiety symptoms so that they don't disrupt your life, they don't make you feel bad, that you can function well in this world and do the things you want to, and then retain all those wonderful, wonderful characteristics that come along with this genetic variation. So they think there isn't a cure. They think that their situation is so unique that what's out there wouldn't be helpful for them. And I remember when Josh was talking one day, he said, I felt so bad that I couldn't believe all these little things that we do could add up to me being able to have a comfortable life again. I thought it was going to take this huge sledgehammer. I mean, I felt like I was dying or wanted to die, and it was going to take heroics to do it. So people tend to think they're unique in their feelings, and that specifically for them, maybe something's going to help for somebody else, but not for them. This is just way too overwhelming. Third, they're afraid of taking risks. They're afraid of taking risks with drugs, with nutrition, with homework. They're just really apprehensive. And certainly I understand the apprehension, because if you have genetic anxiety, we tend to be very sensitive. And we, especially with the drugs, things go paradoxical on us. We're overprescribed, so the dose is too high for our sensitive systems. And there's a lot of programs out there that tell you to confront your anxiety, which of course, when you're ready to do that, is a really good idea if you have a great plan to do it and you can get your body to quiet down enough to do this. But even when you do the programs and you think you're doing really well, then you can have something happen, and we now know why those things happen, but most people don't. They don't teach them why they happen, because they don't know. And then they find themselves back where they were in the first place, and they don't trust. They just feel like everything's going to fail. Then I got a note, it's on this little, right below, from a girl who said that doctors just don't take her seriously. She'd been trying to get help for years, and they're afraid now to prescribe the one medication that helps almost all of us break a panic attack, which are the benzodiazepines, Xanax and Klonopin being the main ones. Others work in varying degrees. Versed is the most powerful one that I know of, but then you have no memory and you're pretty much unconscious, so you don't want to use that one. But they're afraid because the benzodiazepines, when used incorrectly, and here's the problem, doctors don't understand that you use them to get you out of a hole, or under certain circumstances to break a panic attack. And we also use them when people are first starting to practice so that their brain will feel calm and so that unimprinting can start. If you can get your brain to not react, and a benzodiazepine can really do a good job with that. But you only want to use it for a limited time, in a limited amount. And I see and hear from people many times who have been taking 2, 3, 4 milligrams a day for years, and they're going to have terrible addiction problems and terrible withdrawals. So the doctors have gotten real leery, because people are also out there mixing the oxys with the benzodiazepines and other things because it gives them a better high. Hello, Elizabeth. And so they've gotten really nervous because we're having this opioid epidemic, and Xanax probably is kind of like a gateway drug. I don't call it a gateway drug because I'm using it just to survive and feel better, versus trying to get a high. But anyway, they're kind of lumped in there because they do have severe withdrawals if you've taken too much too long, and you just don't know how to use them properly. Other people, interestingly, are afraid of change. As bad as your life can be, the thought of not knowing what could happen if this worked or didn't work or whatever, it's the thought of change that can be absolutely terrifying. And so people will stay in a very, very bad situation. Domestic abuse is an example, because they can't envision a better life in another way. So let's say it's domestic abuse. They can't imagine supporting themselves or taking care of their children or having someone that really loves them, so they know what they can handle, and if they just keep it quiet and keep their head down or do whatever it is that their partner wants, then they know they can be in that little safe, sort of safe box. And so they don't want to step out into the world. Well, that's the same with anxiety. You don't know what's out there, and so you'll stay because this is familiar. It's just what people do, I'm afraid. Not everybody, certainly, but it's one of the things, and you need to be aware that that's why you may be afraid. People are afraid of failure. I've had people come and they're really hesitant to get started on the program because they pay for it, and then their partner wants to know what they're getting for their buck, and they are afraid that their partner is going to expect this perfection right away. They think getting rid of anxiety is like taking a pill and instantly your headache goes away. Okay, and then let's say you take aspirin or ibuprofen and your headache goes away. Well, then you go to work and everybody expects that. Well, people sometimes expect that if you start a program, then by golly, you should be better right away and do all those things. And to those people, I say, don't tell your partner or whoever is putting pressure on you what you're doing. Just don't tell them. Just do it. Learn your lessons. Take your nutrients. People take vitamins all the time, so you can kind of say, oh, I'm just taking some supplements or something. Drinking water, all the things that we have you do can kind of become just a part of life. You can adjust your nutrition, and nobody notices on your plate that you're changing things or that you might be snacking or something. So just don't say anything. And that way you don't have that pressure. When you feel good enough, when you're ready to start practicing. And by the way, we've had people just have a friend who practiced, never told their spouse what they were doing, went out during the day when their spouse was at work with this friend to start practicing, and then they ended up practicing on their own. So it was a great big surprise because they just didn't want to fail and they didn't want to be criticized. One person I'm thinking in particular, the husband was going to divorce her if she didn't do two things. And she went way past those two things, which was wonderful. But she kept it a big secret. So, again, another thing is we're just afraid of taking that first step because we're afraid of the unknown. Not just that things will be different, but just purely the unknown. We also can be afraid that we are going to be expected to go places, do things, give talks, get work if you're not working. That's going to be a decision on your own, and I don't want you to stop getting better because you're afraid that those things will become obligatory. You take your steps as you want to, and if you only just feel better inside and confident and you don't want to do those other things, then that's up to you. If I know there'll be expectations from other people, but it's really how you feel inside and how calm you are that's really important to me, that you can live a quality life. And of course, the last thing is that the anxiety chemistry that we get in our body, that floods our body, that sometimes is there constantly, it seems, every time we just squirt it in constantly. Sometimes we can't even feel that there are breaks, or sometimes it's just when there are triggers. It puts us on high alert. In other words, it preps our body to run or fight. And it creates all those symptoms that we talk about, like disassociation, the there's reasons for other symptoms, and we'll talk about that another time, like dizziness, shortness of breath, heart racing, um, um, uh, numbness and prickling in your fingers and hands. Very good reason for that. And so when you have all those things, even just to think about getting help for yourself can put you on that high alert. I know thinking about flying was a big deal because I knew my husband was flying and I was making those reservations. And as I've told you, I had to go in the bathroom with a portable phone back in the day because I would have so many symptoms. So just the thought of that, it was like, I'm not even going to try, because the chemistry already went in and made me terrified. And so I understand that it is going to take some bravery, but I have to tell you, I was telling someone who's really big in this industry last night that my husband thought people with anxiety, his patients with anxiety, were the strongest people that he'd ever met. And that's because we've learned to stand in front of the firing squad day after day after day and still survive. We still put one foot in front of the other. We may not function well, but all that time we're building this incredible strength inside of ourselves. You're going to be really surprised who pops out when you finally get your symptoms under control. So if any of those things were what's holding you back, I'm here. If you're struggling, know that when you become involved with the Break Free program, we have what's called the Break Free from Anxiety Tribe. And we have people in there that are just newbies and people that have been on it for a long time, and I'm always there. And so we're support. So you can just say, I'm terrified of this. And there are lots of people who don't get started for a long time. And finally they dip their toe in the water. And we're there just cheering you on. You can do it if you'll tell us that you're struggling. And so we're there cheering you on, and nobody is going to criticize you because we've all been there. And we know how hard it was to take that very first step, and the next step, and the next step. But it gets better and better, and you got lots of people to rely on and help be great support for you, which I don't think you can find anywhere else. Okay. I will talk to you again on Friday, and I'm not sure what I'll talk about. If you guys have any ideas, send them to me. And please, if you have fears, write them down on the bottom. We can talk about them. Just say what you think your fear is. That'd be great. See if it fits in these categories. I'm sure I didn't touch all of the fears by any means. So again, I will talk to you Friday, and you guys have a wonderful today and tomorrow, and actually forever, and I'll be with you soon. Bye.